of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4, opening remarks. I don't know if the superintendent or the town manager has anything, or
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Just briefly, just been down the site a few times, starting to see progress already, and I need a hard hat because I can't get past the fence. So if anyone has an extra hard hat around, they like to donate to the superintendent, we'd appreciate it. But it's exciting to see already some of the excavating work that's going on and some of the progress that's already been made in a very short time. So exciting stuff.
We'll get you one at the trailer. Just stop by over the next couple days.
I was going to
Okay.
say, Derek, I think I could find one for you to borrow if you need one.
I was kidding, but that'd be great, Joe, if I could get one. I want to get a BR sticker and put it in front.
Well, make sure you distribute those now.
Will do. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Garrett.
okay, thanks. Item 5, approval of the previous SBC meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the January 11th, 2020 SBC meeting minutes.
Second, Kathy.
Any discussion? All right, we'll take the roll.
Hold on just a second. I think Pat's doing that. Okay, John,
Aye.
Michael,
Yes.
Scott,
I was not at that meeting, so I'm not sure I can vote on that.
you can abstain if you'd like.
Okay, abstain.
Kathy,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Patrick, Patrick,
This is connecting.
Mark.
Are we voting on, what are we voting on? I just joined.
Oh, it's for the meeting minutes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. All right, I don't see Kathy on yet, so why don't we, I guess take,
Do we need a motion to hold number 6 until she arrives?
how do we do that? Take a motion to take something else out of order, like item 7, OPM update?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is Kathy, motion to take item 7, OPM update, out of order.
Mark, second.
Okay, want to do the roll?
John,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All
Okay, well,
right, move
This
on
is
to-
Richard. We've got most of a basketball team from the OPM here. Alyssa, do you have the presentation that you can pull up for us to share?
The host just hasn't enabled screen share.
Yeah, if whoever is the host could enable screen share for us. Who's the host?
John is, I believe.
Josh, can you
Should
do
be able
that?
to host it now.
Thank you. So while we're pulling it up, so there we go. While we're pulling it up, I got an update from several members of the team today. Sorry, there's some feedback, but I'll try to keep going. Things are going pretty well on site. We know Agostini Bacon very well. They are the contractor that we're working with in Westport, not far away, and it's going very well. They're at 72% on that project and doing very well. And of course, they worked in Situate too. So sorry, Alyssa, you had it and lost it. There we go. So as Derek mentioned, there's quite a bit of activity going on. It's setup activity in preparation for the actual construction. Fencing, trailers were delivered today. And are you pulling up that second one, Alyssa? Trailers were delivered today. They're doing some erosion control, which is what they're supposed to be doing now, and have submitted steel drawings. That's really the most important thing, is the submittal of structural steel plans and rebar drawings, which are the drawings that allow them to kind of finally design the foundations, are underway. So yeah, Alyssa's put together a nice little summary, and I don't have to read it because you guys can all read, but as you can see, mobilization in the middle, as I've been talking about, tree and brush removal, construction fence. We're waiting on the schedule of values. That typically takes a few days because they need to get input from the subcontractors. So we're hopeful that will be coming over the next week or two. Weekly meetings have started, which are right now on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. We did get a planning board review, item 3, favorably. So really things are going very well. They'll be slowed down a little bit by the snow, but not too much. That can get cleared off fairly quickly. So, and by the way, the site contractor Catalano is also doing the site package in Westport. They are about 80% through there. It's a $9 million site package, and they've done really a great job. So we've been working with Catalano, who will also be your site contractor for the last nearly 2 years. So all good there. So any questions about progress? Great. Thank you.
This is
Yep,
Kathy.
Hey,
I'm sorry,
Kathy.
I can't find my raise hand tonight.
That's all right. Just yell out. I'm here.
Sorry. So on the weekly meetings, do they provide some kind of a document on a weekly basis that's used at the meetings?
Sure. Good question. So there is a set of meeting minutes produced. Each job is slightly different. Who's doing the meeting minutes on this one, Alyssa? Is that
Agostini.
Agostini? Okay, so there'll be a set of meeting minutes, and what we do is we track old and new items so that nothing gets kind of left by the wayside if it hasn't been resolved. There'll be a look ahead schedule. That's what we call this. This is an example of a 4-week look ahead. What that is a projection of the activities that are intended to occur over the next 4 weeks, and it gives everybody on the team, ourselves, the folks from Raymond Design, and the contractor themselves, the opportunity to think, okay, I need to think about X or Y activity that's going to be taking place toward the end of February. So that'll be there. We do all of the paperwork, what we used to call paperwork, online now through a program called Procore. That program actually tracks all the submittals, all of the RFIs, as we call them, requests for information, all of the feedback back and forth between the designers. So we don't always print those or show those on screen, but they're always available. And if you'd like to be on the Procore system, we can get you set up on it. But what that is it's an electronic in the cloud filing system, which allows you to see the progress of all of the items that are going back and forth between the designer and the contractor on a daily and even hourly basis.
And
So,
Richard, I just want to make sure the daily reports and any updated photos as well are typically.
correct. Good point. Yep.
If you'd like to have access that, it gives you a lot of insight just as the progress of the project overall. So
I think that would be great to have that. And then does
Be
that
careful what you
also,
wish for.
I know, but does that also include like an issues log and a risk log?
We don't do a risk log on a weekly basis. You know, we're always analyzing the issues that are at risk through the weekly meetings, but not a particular risk log. Issues logs, what we typically have is a deficiency log. We won't really have one yet, but we do log anything that's observed by either the design team or ourselves and our team, or the contractor seeing a subcontractor's issue. We have then a deficiency log that we track as well. And then you can't close those deficiencies out until the person that actually generated it closes it out. So that's the check and balance there.
And are those up on that same site that you were talking about?
Yeah, that'll be on Procore once we start to get into, luckily we don't have any deficiencies so far.
Right.
But once we get into it, yes, that'll be tracked on Procore as well.
And are meeting minutes out there as well?
Meeting minutes will be on Procore as well.
Okay.
Yep.
But I don't know, I would like to see those.
Sure. Yeah,
I don't know how
and we
everyone
can
else
give you,
feels.
sure. And when I say be careful what you wish for, there's a lot of information that flows back and forth on Procore, but we can give you kind of some, it's through Agostini, but read access that will allow you to look at everything, but won't necessarily push it into your email. That's when you get a lot of emails. I probably get 30 to 40 a day per project. And that can be a little bit of a, fire hose. So we'll try to set you up with a level of review that will allow you not to be drinking from a fire hose.
This question is kind of for the GMES team. I guess I wonder if we sort of evolve and think about what would we like to see sort of on these monthly as a high level report? Like, is there any additional information we want on it? I think of us like a steering committee. So
definitely, we can.
I guess I'm just thinking like, are there other things that we want to see? And I'm happy to participate in like coming up with a suggested review of that if there are others who want to help too.
Sure. Yeah, just let us know, we'll do whatever we can. We'll have budget updates. We'll have sort of spending updates. We'll have an update on the ProPay system, which is the MSBA's reimbursement system. And obviously schedule updates as well to let you know how the project's tracking against the baseline schedule. So, we'll have lots of information for you, but if you want more, just let us know.
Kathy, I have some thoughts on that, but I think was somebody else looking to contribute on this topic? Thought I heard somebody. So I just want to maybe ask you, Kathy, what you're interested in. And the reason why I'm asking is a weekly update. There's going to be a lot of information to process. You definitely don't want the automatic updates because you'll get 100 emails a week and then you won't know which ones are important. So if you are granted access, which is fine, you can go find the things you want. But I'm wondering if, there's a more efficient way for a casual committee member, and don't take that the wrong way. We don't have the time, in my opinion, to keep up with everything. That's why we have an OPM, right?
Right.
So maybe we could work on having them distill certain information that gets to us. And, I know, in fact, they're already going to bring issues to us. But if you want to see like the status, be able to just pop in, look at things, I think that's fine. It's just, if you want to have an input cycle on anything, that would be a different thing in my mind, because then somebody's got to wait for your input. Do you see where I'm coming from?
I totally see where you come from. I wasn't really thinking of from an input perspective, and I wasn't thinking weekly. I think I was thinking more like for our monthly meetings. I have my background is project management, so I'm thinking about like, if we're the steering committee, what kind of information should we be getting on a monthly basis? And I think that might evolve a little bit as we go. But I'd want to know things like, what are the key issues that are happening? What's the look ahead for, risks or potential, change orders, things like that are coming down the pipe. So that's more where I was thinking.
So I think those are very good comments. I'm expecting that CHA's OPM update is going to probably get more specific as things go along, because up to this point, it's been planning for, a design process, whereas now we have a moving construction project. There'll definitely be change orders, or changes, I should say, that we have to deal with as a committee. But yeah, so Joe, do you have or can you put together maybe this coming phase, an agenda that's maybe more in line with what Kathy's talking about?
Yeah, John, I'd actually like to expand on that a little bit. We provide monthly reports to the building committee. And those monthly reports are going to be everything pretty much Kathy's looking for. It's going to give a summary of the overall project schedule for the month. It's going to have typically, a look ahead, and a 4-week look ahead for the next few weeks coming up. It also provides an RFI log, and that's a request for information. It'll have typically, a discussion of changes, if there's going to be any for that particular meeting. There'll be the deficiencies that you're speaking about is that the RFI log usually generates quite a bit of, questions if there's any concerns with schedule, documents, information related to the site, anything whatsoever. So, and that's a good method to track, because the RFI log will show, what the question is, and when the question was answered, and how it was answered, and what changes or challenges it might have with the overall project. So I think, John, what I'll do is I'll have our team send you a sample of that report. You can share it, and then at that point we can tweak it and manifest it in a way that it makes sense, that works for the district.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Does that sound good, Kathy?
No, yes, that sounds perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. So let's just continue on. This is just giving you kind of a snapshot of the look ahead activities. Melissa, you want to go to the next slide, please? So here's some nice photographs. That's another thing that we'll provide monthly is photographs of the site. So this gives you a sense of where your money's going. Survey going on here. 3 guys looking at a hole. It's kind of a typical construction picture, but in all seriousness, these things are very important, because they're going to be laying out the building based upon the survey information. Obviously, some nice big trailers that will become our offices over the next year and a half, and as well as Agostini Bacons. So that's always important, because it's important that people have a good functional place to work. Some boring work here, not in the sense of sleepy boring, but boring down into the soil. And as I mentioned, the construction fence is going into place. So a lot of good early activity. So this kind of gives you a written summary of what's going on. So as I mentioned, temporary electric is starting, or I don't know if I mentioned, but that's coming. Erosion control, which is the wattles, straw wattles, and scrim fencing that we put around the site to make sure that there's not runoff into adjacent properties, and then remove the remaining removal of foundations. It's going to take place right after that. So that's that. School building committees. Since we're all here, we know when that is, and then there's another one scheduled in about a month. And what we'll do is we've got these scheduled, as you can see, the 8th in this particular case, because February has 28 days. But it's good to have that meeting somewhere around the first week of the month, because that allows you to get into a payment cycle that works for the contractor. You're supposed to pay them in 15 days. So then you can get into a cycle where you pay them during the month that the requisition appears, and then go in for your pro-pay reimbursement at the end of the month. So we'll try to work on that cycle. I think there you go. And then as I mentioned, on a consistent basis, we will be we will be presenting the budget. Don't think this reflects the full bid savings. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, Mike didn't know he was getting sick until this afternoon, so we're gonna have to punt on this one because the construction, I think, is
lower.
yeah, it needs to be adjusted based upon the bid, but we'll do that.
So when are we going to get that? Because I think we were expecting to have it before today's meeting, that detailed one.
Well, so what we need in order to provide a full accounting of where we anticipate the MSBA reimbursement to fall is this contractor schedule of values that I referred to that we're waiting for. So I think it'll be soon, Kathy, but I can't give you an exact date when they'll be able to provide that, because as I said, they have to get a lot of input from about 24 to 26 subs. And it has to be accurate, but we'll get it to you as soon as we can.
But if you could go back a slide.
Sure.
I think what we were waiting for was something that was updated with the correct construction number and what the total project was going to be.
I agree. I'll get that to you. I should be able to get that to you tomorrow. Because I agree. As soon as I saw this, I realized we needed to update it. We'll get that to you. We'll send that out to the full committee tomorrow.
And we wanted that in a high level of detail.
John, can I ask a question to the OPM just to follow up on Kathy?
Sure.
So Richard, I think, and Joe, I think and I was waiting for the same thing that Kathy's asking for.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the past, what Shane used to do was he had and I think we went over this before, the reimbursement rate is like 59.62 or whatever it is, right?
Correct.
But our effective is only like 40 something, right?
That's correct also.
But and then we talked about last time in detail, square footage is only reimbursed up to a certain level, but we just
333, right?
We just saved $12 million. So our effective reimbursement rate should actually come up with the $12 million in savings. So I think what we were trying to do on the like the public outreach side was actually have real numbers, what the town's going to be responsible for, and an effective rate based on that $12 million in savings. So we could adjust that. So we could adjust that calculator that we have online with the bond rate that we now know we have, and then the real reimbursement rate and what the town is really going to need to borrow on a net basis. So, and that kind of fell off at some point, the effective rate. So if we can get that back.
Yeah, I should be able to do that for you tomorrow. It's going to be an estimate until the MSBA does their analysis. So the way this works is that we submit to the MSBA the updated schedule of values from the contractor. And because there's a couple different calculations, there's the 333 per square foot cap. There's also an 8% cap on site costs as it relates to construction. So that can skew the numbers slightly. But your basic premise is absolutely right. Your effective reimbursement rate will go up substantially because the bid savings goes against for the most part, is money that's above the cap. So I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but let's say that we were projecting a $400 a square foot number and it came in at $360. All of that differential between 333 and 400 was 100% on the town. So the 360, as you save that $40 a square foot, all of that is going to be a savings that reverts back to the town. So the point is, the bulk of, and on the Westport job, we also had some bid savings. Over 90% of that savings went to the town. I have to run some numbers to figure that out, but I can do that for you. It's pretty simple to do. It'll still be an estimate, as I said, until the MSBA does their analysis, and they always have a couple of items that we don't fully agree with, but we do our best to anticipate what that is. So yeah, we can put that together for you.
So Pat, follow-up question to you or maybe the communication committee. Do you want to go to press with the exact number and wait for it? Or do you want to get close enough and maybe it meets the need for the public informational component of it?
I'd leave that up to Mike and Lyle. I mean, they do most of the.
Yeah, if I could, John, I think we're waiting for that number in order to place that into the tax calculator. So we can then post that a link to that tax calculator that's going to be on the town's website. We want to give people as close as it can be, because we, again, before pre-COVID and pre the incredible bond rate we got, we told them that they wouldn't be getting hit for 3 years on their taxes. Now they are. So we just want to make sure that we are giving them the most accurate information as we can. And the last thing we want is to give somebody the wrong numbers and it become an issue for them, for us, for tax abatement, whatever it is. So that's where we're at. So we're still waiting for that number so we can get that to Mr. Dutton so the website can be updated. That tax calculator can be updated.
So just to be clear, we can't do that, give you an official number till the MSBA finishes their analysis. So that's 60 to 90 days away.
Okay.
Christina, did you have something?
Yeah, Mike and Lil and I had discussed this, and I'm aware that the tax calculator needs to be updated. The reason we haven't pushed that forward is because it would just be an estimate right now. We do not have formal approval from the MSBA. If you guys decide to do it on an estimated number, you have to consider that that number could change, and that if somebody goes on there today, and if somebody goes on there 2 months from now, and uses the same tax calculator, but it's calculating from different values, they're going to get different answers. So my recommendation initially was to wait for the process to go through so that people could get real figures, but I'll leave that up to you guys as to whether you want to have an estimate out to start.
So Richard, do you think that's a 2-month process, a 30-day process from today to get their approval?
The MSBA has been running slow because they're all virtual and they need 2 or 3 layers of approval, but 60 to 90. You know, I think Agostino will probably get it to us in the next 15 to 30 days and then another 30 to 60 after that.
So the question to the communications team is, and I'm going to just throw out a number here. The estimate is probably going to be within what, 1 or 2%? 1%?
Well, yeah.
5 plus or
5?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's not precise enough, then I guess we wait. If it is, and we can note it on the website, then, you know, maybe we consider getting it in the works. I don't have a real good feel for what the public really wants.
I mean, 5% could be quite a bit, you know, if it's off, you know.
So I'm just spitballing here, sorry. I would feel better about us putting a statement on the website to say a tax calculator is coming in the next 2 months, 3 months. We are awaiting MSBA final approval, final whatever the language we want to put.
Amendment. It's an amendment.
Putting 5% plus or minus, to Joe's point, that's a lot of money for some people. So
5% of what?
Well,
Not 5% of the total value.
No, I'm saying, so if your reimbursement anticipated, just to throw a number, is 30, you know, adjusted is $30 million. I'm saying I can get you between like 29 and 31, but I can't guarantee, you know, that's 3%, but so 31 and a half and 28 and a half, you know, something, I can give you a range that tight.
Okay.
But why don't I do it, and then you guys can decide what you want to do with it. That's the first step.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to oversimplify it, Richard, but I don't think all of the items are in contention, right? I mean, they are what they are. There's just some that have limits.
Well, yeah. So, but until I have Agostini's calculation of what the site cost actual bid is vis-a-vis the total bid, we can't give you the exact calculation of what the 8% cap will affect, how that will affect the reimbursement, because I need the same data that the MSBA does in order to run the calculator on the 3011 form, which is the MSBA's, budget, budget form. So again, I mean, we can get close, and I've done this for a long time, but I just can't give you, to the nth degree, an exact number. I mean, this is going to be a good story, and that's the thing. You don't want to spoil a good story because we come back and say, well, yeah, we saved $5 million, but we thought we were going to save 5.5, and people are going to be, oh, we thought it was 5.5, and I mean, they still say 5 million. You know what I mean? I just don't want to lose a good story because we rushed out information. So that'd be my only comment.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and run the numbers and get them to us, and then we can decide maybe at the next meeting if we want to do anything early or not. Does that sound okay, Michael Dolan?
It does, yes.
And I agree with Mike that, even if you just publicize on the web that, we're getting that number and it'll be coming, pretty quickly, at least they're aware that it's coming and not just sitting on it.
I can arrange that.
Good news coming.
Yeah.
This is
All right.
Kathy. Maybe we can talk about it when we get to communications, but we have to balance that with the information that people are putting out on like Facebook sites and other things that's not correct. Because we all know when you don't have information, you make it up and usually it's wrong.
It typically always is.
Okay, well, Christine will handle the communication side. Any other comments for me? I have another meeting that starts at 7. So any other questions about the owner's project manager report?
I think that'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina, just text me if you need me to follow up. I can come back on.
Will do.
Okay. Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
So, John, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So Joe and Christina, is that, I mean, I didn't want to keep Richard, so I didn't want to talk when he was on here, but that's something that we can get pretty quick, like this week or so, just so the committee has an idea.
Yes.
Yeah, the updated numbers, you mean?
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm imagining things, but when Shane used to do the OPM report, he used to, that number has fallen out. He used to have a projected effective at like 4, that's where I'm getting the number. It was like 42 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, since he's been gone, that number's disappeared.
Yeah, we'll add it back, Pat. I agree with you. It needs to be there.
All right. Yep. I was waiting till you left, so I didn't keep you.
No, it's okay. It's you guys are our number one client. I promise. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Richard.
Yeah, Pat, Joe and I will make sure the whole team with Mike and Alyssa, we start adding all of the numbers, including your formal actual rate and your quote unquote effective rate, and breakdowns of what that looks like. And once we do get the feedback from the MSBA, we can give you kind of a better sense of where those caps are and where your savings are. It's just because it's all a little in flux while we're getting all of the detailed schedule of values from the GC. But we can do a general update based on the bid numbers for you and get that to you quickly within the next few days.
And every district exceeds that 8% on the site. So I mean, I see that saving. It's not like they're going to get, you're going to get 90% of that savings shown on there. So we'll show you exactly how that lays out.
All right, any more on that item on the OPM update? All right, well, I think I see Kathy on, so we can go back to our regular order. Item 6, which would be approval of the Bacon payment requisition number 1.
John, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I muted myself, and that was probably a good thing for everybody, but I was still talking.
Oh, I'm
Can I-
sorry.
Can I, quick OPM question while we still have them on?
Yeah.
I received, somebody I know a little bit, they got a hold of my email, and they sent me an email today, which I have not responded to because I don't know if I should give it to somebody in the OPM team or to you, John, or to Mike Dolan. But one of the South Street abutters had a concern, and I guess they said in the email, they thought they emailed the OPM and they got a generic response. So they asked for a phone number for the OPM. Who should handle that, and who should I forward it to?
Pat, it should go to Mike and I.
You and Mike?
Yeah.
If it's one of the two people that emailed us last week, they got a response from us that said that the OPM would get back to them with the information they were looking for. I asked Mike McNulty to send them that information, and Mike was waiting for information from Gene and his team before he could respond.
All right, so yeah, that must be it, because they said they had requested information I think they said last week, and they got a generic response with no follow-up. So
Yeah, I know exactly. Mike and I spoke about this, and Pat, and we're putting in a pretty detailed response back to him based on.
That's fine. I'll forward the email to Mike Dolan to make sure it's the same one you're working on.
That'd be great.
And then if it is, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could for a minute, with clarification for passing those things along, Mike Dolan, we were receiving those emails in the Bridgewater School Project email address. Is that correct?
That is correct. And Christina, I then forward those based on what the person is looking for. I will either answer those if I can, or forward those off to Joe, Mike. I've forwarded a couple to Mike Dutton's office, to Derek. So it depends on what they're looking for. I'm sort of I guess I'm the filter of the fish tank, if you would. So,
So, yeah, and so what I think the reason I ask for clarification is, Pat, if anybody's asking you where they can send it to, they can send it to that general email box. It is being checked and it is being responded to.
Right, and I don't want to respond to him because I think the message should come from one place. So that's why I just want to make sure I get it to that place. And I'll forward it to Mike, and you guys may already be working on it.
Okay.
Thanks,
Pat.
Anything more for the OPM update?
John, I just want to let you know, we are preparing a weekly update for whatever website or whatever newsletter you're going to be putting out on a weekly basis, and we can forward that along typically on a Friday. Is that correct, Lisa? Okay, great.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Back to item 6, approval of the Bacon payment requisition number 1.
So would you like, I'll start with that. Gene, both Gene and I received a pen from construction. We reviewed it. Typically, it's the Boston Insurance and pre-mobilization. Both reviewed it and felt that it was recommendation for approval. And you should have number for the requisition, correct? Alyssa, do you have the requisition that you could put up?
I don't.
So
I have a copy of the rec if you'd like me to share it on the screen.
please, just so
Yeah,
I
why
can
don't-
show that.
Why don't you do that, Joe, so you can just give us the overview, because we're going to see these every month. And,
Yeah,
I don't think we have to get into the nitty gritty of the numbers unless Kathy Macedo has any questions. But
I want to be able to show the cover sheet, how it's broken down and exactly explain to it as you move forward. If you could just in a little bit, I'll walk you right through it. Should be right there.
Where do you want the bottom line?
No, that's good for now. So basically, the original contract sum of the 50,602,151. There's no net change. Obviously, the contract stays the same. As we approve change orders, those will go up. Their total completed and stored to date is the value that they're looking for. It's 319,646. There's 5% retainage that typically hold. That'll always be held until we feel, both the architect and the OPM feel, that the retainage could be released. Like an example would be if we constructed the building and all the structural steel was in place, sometimes the structural steel guy will say, release retainage. Once it's approved by the engineers and it's all installed, we typically would, recommend for release of that retainage. But most of the subcontractor retainage doesn't get actually released until closer to the end of the project when the punch list is nearly complete. So they're looking for a total value of $303,664 for their first requisition number 1. Any questions at all?
Just to let you know, we have our next warrant will be on February 11th. So next week, we would be able to put this on the warrant.
Perfect. So the upper left corner, you'll see the contract application for payment. It says additions and deductions. That all has to do with the change orders that are approved on a monthly basis. And those would obviously track over to the net change by change orders, whether it's a add or a minus, depending on how we approve. Hopefully it's more minuses than add. So Mark, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just, is this the first time we've viewed this?
This would be your first time as far as you reviewing it or me?
No, I'm sorry. I think it was distributed to the committee.
yeah, on Friday.
I'm just making sure. Okay, thank you.
So I guess just to explain any of the change orders in line 2, those will make their way to the committee before they show up in this for us to vote on it, because with the working financial subcommittee, I guess, is going to meet in advance. So we'll get a heads up of any issues that may involve a cost change, so that when it gets presented to the committee will have all the backup and be able to talk about it, discuss it.
And you're 100% right, John. And what'll happen is that subcommittee is actually going to indicate and discuss the change orders, and for a recommendation to the committee. Those change orders will not show up till the following rec, because they can't even rec them until they're approved. Once they're approved, that number in that left corner will change. It'll change that second number on requisition number 2. They've already been pre-approved, so they're allowed to bill against them once the work is complete. And just for the record, although the change in contract, the net changes may be there, they may not rec for some of those changes because they're not completed during that duration. So it's going to be monitored on a monthly basis based on, what was asked for, what was recommended for payment. And then when it is approved, it will go on there for tracking purposes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll actually bill against it for that next month. It all depends on when that work is completed based on that change order. So the process is correct. You're gonna have a subcommittee basically review any discussion of changes prior to the building committee, and then that committee and the OPM and the architect will give a recommendation for approval for whether it's an add or a deduct for each of these changes, and then it shows up the following month. Okay.
Thanks for that explanation, Joe.
You're welcome.
So I had one more question. So the schedule of values hasn't been submitted or approved, or it hasn't been approved, but this requisition is based on reasonable numbers that are substantially based on
What they've
percentage
done
of construction. So they're not really in question, right, Joe?
Right. So what ends up happening is 90% of this money is their bonds and insurance and probably the first portion of mobilization, because you have a $50,602 and $151,000 contract with them. 303,664 is the value of that information. They have to submit the bond and insurance information to us so that we can verify that those numbers actually are true. Any of the money associated with any other portion of the rec, both RDA, John, Larry from our office is on site with Manny, Mike, myself, will review it, and we all come to an agreement that that number's solidified, and then we let Agostini Bacon know that we're good with those numbers. So as there is a certain level of schedule of values that's already within this requisition. It hasn't been completed 100% for us to actually utilize those numbers to go to the PFA and back to the MSBA. So that's 90% of the reason why you don't have the numbers yet. But this requisition does have a level of schedule of values that, we were satisfied with based on the first requisition.
Joe, maybe if we could just go to the next page, not to really get into any line item number, but just to call attention to the column headings. So for anybody that's interested, column C is the scheduled value that'll be agreed upon. That's what's still in flux. And then you can see D and E, it rolls up the work that's completed. So on any given item, the value every month it'll go up. Some of it will happen right away, like the steel will happen early and be complete. And then there's a certain value associated with materials that have been delivered. The OPM checks, make sure they've been received, and they get paid for a percentage of that material because, the contractor doesn't want to be the bank, right? So that percentage is rolled up in to the right of column G. H is what's still outstanding. And then, as Joe mentioned, the retainage. So this is basically everything in a snapshot every month of where the project is for all, however many items there'll be, maybe 100.
Probably, right. Yep.
So
and
I just wanted to point that out.
You're 100% right, John. I mean, you'll see the detail, the level of this detail will increase based on the final buyouts from each of the subcontractors, and there'll be some changes, but the value of the contract will never change except for the change orders, or whether it's an addition or subtraction. And we base every single, review of this, like the bond, you'll see it 237,695. They're billing for 100% of that, but we still hold a retainage of 11,885. And we ask them for a copy of that bond so that we have it for record as well. So each of these items being billed, there's deliverables against them, and you'll see like the supervision and we break this over the duration of the contract. If it's 18 months of construction, and I'm just using that as an example, that should be divided like the trailers. That it should be almost 14 months of billing against it, because the trailers eventually leave the site. So that's how we accommodate, where the costs will come in as we track it. So.
All right. Well, that sounds like a good update on that for us. Kathy, since you mentioned the warrant, could you just explain to me how that works?
This invoice, we would have a purchase order with this being charged against it, and it would be signed off by the school committee. That's how we pay all of our bills. It would be charged to the building project account.
So after
John,
the committee were to vote to approve it, then you would have to get it on, is that what you meant by the warrant?
Yes.
To be presented to the school committee for them to then vote on it.
Yeah, next Thursday, we'd have a check.
Joe, did you have something?
I just wanted to add that, these requisitions, and I want to make sure that they're not paid unless all of the signatures are on them. It should have the general contractor's signature, the architect's, as well as the initials from the OPM, just to make sure that everybody's reviewed the number, because we get a pencil rec typically the last week of the month. We're going to go back and forth depending on our review, whether we agree or disagree, and those numbers should be changed. The architect and the OPM definitely reconcile that before it goes to you guys. So those 3 signatures should always be on that requisition before it goes to warrant. That's all I'd like to make sure that happens regularly.
Also, Joe, I know in time we're going to be seeing possibly some certified payrolls. Are you getting that, or are we doing that?
No, we're actually tracking those, and those will be uploaded on Procore and tracked. We'll have a weekly track. Typically, they're a week behind 90% of the time because of the week they're working in. So we'll track them in the event, and during our job meetings, we've already had discussions about this. If there's a contractor behind, we'll notify the general contractor of that situation, as well as the filed sub or subcontractor that may not have supplied it or provided it. Without that, we put them on notice, and we let the general contractor know that as well, so that, everybody that's within this project supervision ensures that we're getting them on a regular basis. If they're incorrect, we track that as well. We base it off of the prevailing wages that are provided within this contract period, and we make sure that they're paying the actual rates, as well as any of the overhead and profit that they're entitled to. So we track that pretty closely, and we take it very seriously.
Okay, so if I get any emails or calls from anyone asking for those, I can direct them to you folks.
Absolutely. Alyssa's one of my bird dogs on that. She's very good about getting the documentation together and providing the necessary information to whatever the public request might be.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any additional discussion on this before we entertain a motion to vote on it? So if there isn't any discussion, I don't see any. Somebody should make a motion that, identifies the requisition number, which is 1, and the value, which is current payment due, is item 8, $303,664.
And John, I would list the balance with that each vote, just so it's in the minutes. There's 50,298, 487. So there's no confusion with that as well. Okay.
Good. So does somebody want to make a motion?
You want to pay the contractor.
All right, I'm not hearing anybody if somebody's making it.
This is Kathy. I'll make the motion. Motion to approve requisition number 1 in the amount of $303,664 with a balance to finish of $50,298. I'm sorry, $50,298,487.
Perfect.
I'll second it.
I'm just going to need you to state your name when you second.
Pat.
Thank you. Okay, you ready for a roll call vote?
This is John, yes.
John? Michael?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Lillian?
Yes.
Harsh?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you, John.
All right, item 8, designer update.
Hi, everyone. So the usual crew is here, myself, Jeff's on, and then John's sitting in the office with me, kind of in the background here. There's not a lot going on or a lot to report because, the job is just starting to get ramped up. We are starting to get some middles, and John is starting to attend the weekly job meetings. And he also ends up on site kind of as needed beyond the formal meeting.
Dean, can I ask you a quick question
Sure.
for one thing? For your report on a monthly basis, it's extremely helpful when you turn around and you say like if 17 submittals have been submitted on and 15 of them are approved or whatever that number is. It's just helpful for tracking methods as well as any RFI because you guys are very responsive and it's been very good so far. And I just want to make sure the committee knows that if you get 15 RFIs and 11 of them are answered already and you're just looking for your consulting answers, it just shows that, we're being very proactive with the contractor and what your effort levels are with that. So I think if you could provide that on even if it's a one-page summary of that, it's very helpful for the committee.
Okay, thanks, Joe. We also, I don't know if it got out knowing that Mike, I guess, became ill this morning or this afternoon. We had sent out a memo kind of with it's very simple, but a couple things we wanted to present tonight. So, to John and Mark's, points in the past, we'll try to get that memo out typically on the Friday before the meetings. So the two things that we had tonight, and again, I don't know if people have seen this or not, whether it did get distributed, but if I could share my screen, I wanted to just put up an image of the proposed project sign. Every one of these public jobs has well, private too, typically have a job sign out on the fence on the public way. So I imagine this would be somewhere on the fence out on South Street. The MSBA requires really the format of the sign is up to everybody, anyone, except the MSBA does require this little logo somewhere on the sign. So can everyone see this? Sharing my screen. Yep, thanks, Mark. So we have the project name, the address. We put the town of Bridgewater's logo on the left. We put the region's logo on the right, which kind of worked out well as far as balance. And then typically they have the information of the designer, the owner's project manager, and the contractor. So in this case, we put the logos of all three. Then this part in here is really, really can vary. Some people just want to list a couple names of committees or, the town of Bridgewater. Most building committees want to have their names on the sign, and I think that's appropriate, given that you guys have donated so many hours of your time over the past couple of years, and you still have a couple more to go. But whether there's other, whether the Board of Selectmen or the town council, or we can set this up any way you want, and this is not really ready to send off to Bacon to turn into a sign. It's really there as a draft, and to have you all think about what might be appropriate.
So Gene, just to be clear, this is a sign that we own through the general contractor, and they typically would, we give them the design that you're looking for. They own purchasing it and placing it at the location desired by the architect. So these are typical. The MSBA actually likes to see these signs because they're a partner with you guys. You can see, their name in the corner and the attributing people involved with it. So, and most of the time I can tell you, building committees always like to have their name on it because they have put a lot of effort into that, and they like to be associated with, this is a really special project for the town of Bridgewater. A lot of towns want you know, the MSBA's involvement to get new schools and don't always get it. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
So, John, if I could, this is Mike Dolan. Can I ask?
Sure.
Just two quick things, Gene. The logo for the district. We need to, if I could, recommend and request we use the academic logo, not the athletic logo. That's our athletic logo. If you need that, we can get you that, but that's
Yeah, that'd be great. Just so we're not guessing. If someone can send it, that'd be great.
We can get that to you. The other thing was, is it appropriate to put the email address and the website on this sign?
It's absolutely fine, and we can find a way to do it nicely. So
Okay.
if you'll send me that specifically too, just so I don't put the wrong thing up there, Mike.
Yep, absolutely. We can certainly do that.
Michael, you were gonna give us your cell phone number too, right?
I was waiting for that.
Yeah,
And John, through you too, Jean, it's not George E. Mitchell, it's George H. Mitchell.
Can't believe we keep doing that.
Okay,
No, it's
we're
not.
here for you. We're here for you, Jean.
Thank you, Lil.
Yeah.
I love
You
it.
did say it was a draft.
Man.
They should have put draft on it, Gene. You would have been better off.
Good point. I swear to God, I told them age.
And Jean, could I have a copy just of that rendering when you get a chance?
Yes, Lil, I wanted to, the only other thing we had to show tonight was 3 renderings that you had requested a while ago.
Okay.
So we actually created them. And-
Thank you.
Oh, you
Gene,
are
our logo may be dataless /CHA, so we'll send you that, okay?
okay, sounds good.
So I guess I had a question for either the superintendent and or town manager in terms of, other than the school building committee names, what's the process for getting this approved? In terms of, are we gonna add any other names or any other information? Michael suggested a few things there. How do you want to, who wants to have final approval on this?
John Garish. I don't, from my perspective, I think that's, a building committee decision, but I defer to Derek. I don't know if the school committee wants to weigh in.
I would agree that it goes through this committee, the school building committee. That would be my thought.
Okay. The more names we add, the smaller the picture gets.
This is Kathy. I was just going to say, I don't care if my name is on there. I would rather have it more prominently be the website and the email address so people know where to go for information.
All right.
John,
Yes.
I think we could put it right underneath where it says George Mitchell School with the email and that information right there, because there seems to be a nice white space for it.
Yeah, we might not even need, people know it's 500 South Street, Bridgewater, right? So maybe it's just right there.
Yeah, because Bridgewater School Project, you'd see it, it would pop.
Yeah, all right. Good idea. Because I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, when do we want to get this up? So when do you want a final approval of a draft?
Would be nice if, I assume coming out of tonight, we'll have some comments and we can get some of the things back from you as far as the website and the correct logo. But, and then someone can just send us kind of I hate to say it, but sometimes they change or we have the wrong spelling. So if someone will just send us a list of the names of the school building committee, that way it'll be on us if we make any mistakes.
Yeah, just if someone wanted Richard rather than Rich, I mean, those type of things, what Gene's discussing. So depending on how you want your name actually presented.
All the names should be on the website, on the project team page.
You think you can just take a screenshot and send it off to me so I don't go to the wrong thing? And I appreciate it.
Yeah, we should get that to you.
He doesn't want to put a George E in there now.
I know, I'm kind of nervous now. So, you know, if that's the extent of the feedback, you know, we can do another draft of the sign, and there's no reason that we have to wait for the next building committee. I mean, I can just, you know, forward it to CHA and they can distribute it.
Gene, I'd like one pass through the committee. So forward it to John, just have him do a quick email, and then John can just send it back saying it's good to go, because it just for the safety factor more than anything. Okay.
Oh,
And-
yeah,
and
definitely. Yeah.
It takes a couple of weeks anyway to get the sign. So, you know, this should go up the month of March. You know what I mean? So we'll be in good shape.
So does anybody on the committee have an objection to that process? I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward to me.
Hey, John, it's Joe. I just got a question with regard, what's the actual dimensions of the sign?
It's what we own is 4 feet high by 8 feet wide.
Great. All right. Thanks.
It's a sheet of plywood.
Yep,
essentially.
excellent. Thanks.
This brings up something that can come up. Sometimes we mount them on the fence and it's not a problem, but if we want it post mounted out near the street, sometimes we have to talk to the zoning people about a sign ordinance and things like that, just so that we're not violating something that some neighbor will complain about.
I think we could find a spot, John, on the fence that it'll be near the gate and it'll be prominent.
I would agree, but some towns want it right out at the street. So I just wanted to make sure that was discussed, that's all.
So do we know, Joe, where it might go then? Do you have a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think that near the front entrance gate area there, I mean, there's a section of area that we've already cleared out that we between Gene's crew, John and Larry and myself, we could figure out a good spot that, it's going to be visible. MSBA wants to see it visible because they want people to see that sign and their name on it as well. So we'll figure that out.
So that was a sign. I mean, if that's okay, we'll do a second draft. We'll send it to CHA and to John Garish. And at some point, someone can tell us it's good to go and send it off to Bacon. And you know what? We're happy to do as many drafts as need be. So,
Joe, maybe when that comes along, you can take the site plan or something, put an X where you think it's going to show
that'd be
up.
great. Yep.
So then a couple months, I'm sorry to say, but we were kind of busy getting the sets out. A couple months ago, Lil had asked on behalf of the PR committee to if we could have some updated renderings, because the last one's kind of the one that we've always shown has been a bird's eye, and it had yellow brick. And so now that things have settled down, we spent a little bit of time. This is obviously one of the renderings, and I'm happy to send it off, to Mike or Lil or through CHA. So we have the front rendering. We updated the view kind of down in front of the playground. This kind of struck me because this is not green block. It's going to be kind of a gray kind of neutral block, but the shadow and all the reflections of the kind of the green that we've shown on the playground are making it look like it's is kind of green tinted, but it is not. And the whole idea on the green accents, just to remind people, was one of the themes in this school was growth, personal growth and academic growth on behalf of the students. But we have a lot of kind of tree and plant analogy or, well, references inside the building, and we brought the green out onto the outside of the building as well. And then the final one we did was just being around the corner. So this is the back where there's a couple of music rooms, and then there's, you know, the receiving area. This is actually the teacher lounge and the 2 music rooms, and then the receiving area is back in here. So the outdoor deck, the learning deck, and the media is off the media center and the art room and the maker room, and then the pre-K wings out in the background there. So, you know, that's about it. You know, we're happy to forward these to people, and you can do what you think is best with them. You know, as far as letting the town know what they're gonna see in 2 years. And that's our report.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you, Gene and team.
You're welcome.
Item 9, report of the communication group.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of things we talked about already tonight. Thank you, Gene, for those renderings. Appreciate that. Those were on our list to talk about tonight. We are updating our FAQs for the website again. I feel like we're doing that every month because we keep getting questions. So we will keep updating those. Kathy, I want to unwrap, if we could, your earlier comment. I just want to make sure that we're addressing the information as we get it. Admittedly, I hate Facebook, and I'm not on it. So, so yeah, there's that. And then, Gene, I'll make sure we get you all of that stuff for that sign. I've actually started an email draft to you. Lil, was there anything else?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Kathy, just want to go back to your earlier comment and make sure that we're
Yeah, I guess so I saw this week that someone who actually, it looks like they had been on the site. They posted some pictures of the site. So I also had a question about, you know, who's actually allowed on the site. But, you know, the person, it was on Facebook, it was on the Bridgewater Residents group. I think there's a couple of different ones that I'm on, but, and then there was some misinformation in there. And I guess it just, I know we can't stop all the misinformation, but I was just trying to figure out, like, what can we do as a group, or what could, like, should I be sending that on to you and Lil? I think I saw Lisa posted like a response that posted the page, which was great, but it's almost like I so want to go in and say, wait a minute, like, I think one of the comments was it went from an $80 million project to a $50 million project, and we saved $30 million, which obviously isn't correct, but a person wouldn't know that. So I guess my question is, how do we handle when we see those? What can we as individual members of the, you know, committee do to help?
Yep. That's a really great question, Kathy. Thank you. I think it depends on your level of comfort with the misinformation that's been posted. If you and your level of comfort as identifying yourself as a member of the committee, because I think that's something that lends credence to what you're saying if you identify yourself as a member of the committee. Like I said, I'm not on Facebook, so I would not be able to respond to that, but I can certainly reach out to whoever posted individually some way. Most people who are on Facebook are not shy about sharing their information. So I could reach out to them and have that conversation about the misinformation. Lil could and again, depending on the topic, we can handle that. I did hear, I did get a couple of screenshots that Lisa sent out, a correction of information. So Lisa, thank you for that. So yeah, I hope that helps, Kathy. I don't want, if it's out there and it's misinformation, I want all of us to feel comfortable correcting the misinformation. While correcting the information, if you wanted to reference, here's the correct information, here's the website, and here's the email address for further questions, that would work.
Yeah, I don't have a problem like saying, like responding. Maybe I could pass my response by either you or Lil or something like before I posted it. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I certainly, like if there's already a frequently asked question, and maybe if there isn't, maybe some of that misinformation could guide us to create one. And then if we can link to it, I guess the more, to me, the more we can push people to the factual site, the better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you can only lead a horse to water, right? So
that's absolutely right.
You know, it's just disheartening, and especially when like the past gets hashed, which I get it. And then people say things like, oh, they took the lowest bid. Well, yes, but that's the law, you know?
Right.
So I don't know. I think we're going to see more and more of that.
Yep, absolutely.
And can I add, I when I saw that, and I have done this since I've been on the committee, is when anybody posts stuff like that, I always just put a link to that website. And because I'm a teacher, if I start making any kind of comments, correcting anything, I think it's going to be, oh, well, she's a teacher, and I think it could become a negative. So I will always post, you know, go to that website, and some of the negative stuff has been there all along, and I think it's going to continue to be there all along. I've also seen and spoken to a lot of people that are new to the town that have moved in since this vote is taken. And I think there's a lot of people that really don't know what's going on. They weren't here for the vote. You know, it's been a while since the construction has started. So I think there's like, you know, room for some more information to be maybe posted on the residents page. There's a huge following on that page.
Yeah, I think Lillian, sometimes I think you post like, you know, or you copy the post from the project Facebook page so that like I think the more we get them going to those other sources, the better.
Right. Alyssa gives me an update every week with the pictures.
Yeah.
And the person that did post on Bridgewater Residents clearly went down there and took the pictures.
Yeah, so that was my other question, like who has access to the site? And it also, you know, and I mean, this is a natural thing and we should expect it, but that person also talked to people in the construction crew and got some information. Like, I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to make sure that it's factual data that's getting out there.
Joe?
So the access to the site is controlled by the general contractor. The construction fence, the gates, once they took the permit out and they take literally ownership of that site. So the protocol is that anyone that goes onto that site is supposed to check in with the superintendent and or our on-site representation, and it's supposed to be documented, not only for, you know, the principle of knowing who's on site, but for the liability aspect of it. Now, if they spoke to someone, you know, and they went there, you know, it would be helpful to know who they spoke to. But the Bacon Agostini has a strict policy of how they actually, any visitor on site, and that goes for even the building committee. They took ownership and liability of that site, so they need to know who's there and when they're there. That site's locked when they're not there, and there should be no access at that point. And if we're finding out people are getting onto that site and without our knowledge, I think we'll have to put up some type of, you know, camera up just monitoring that location. But the answer, Kathy, is no one's supposed to be on there unless authorized personnel and it goes through Bacon Agostini.
Yeah, well, someone definitely was there and took pictures, so, because they posted pictures. And they weren't pictures that were on the other site. I don't
Well,
believe.
it's good to know. That's good to know. And I think what we'll do is I'll bring that up to Agostini tomorrow.
And I don't know, like, it might be on purpose that they're open, but I go to the senior center often. And so I know that the back, there's like a gate back there on that access road, and it's open a lot it didn't used to be, but it seems like lately it's been open a lot. So I don't know if that's a way that people are getting in.
I think it has to
Okay,
be
I'll
open
find out.
during construction, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
The
that
fire
they
department
typically,
want that.
right.
Okay. Because it used to be closed, so now it's open again.
We'll
So,
look into it.
so Kathy, I had a few thoughts, not really as a rebuttal, but I too am not on Facebook, so I wouldn't be inclined to comment to anybody anyways. But yeah, I think it's important that disinformation, that we try to, counter that. I like the idea of having a consistent way to respond by referring them to the public site that we're spending this time and effort to keep updated, and then encouraging them to reach out through the process, with the email or reaching out directly to the committee. I would encourage that. I don't think the committee should be coordinating any personal responses that people want to make on social media. I don't think that's the right way to go. I think everybody, if they just use their own judgment, they've got so much invested in volunteer time in this committee. I just trust that judgment. That's my thought.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the more I'm happy to like Lisa did, just point them.
Yeah. Michael, I know there was some talk of notifying abutters, and what's the status of that, or a new newsletter? Is there anything that you can update the committee on right now with that?
Yeah, we're looking at a potential text messaging option for the abutters, for quick hit information. There is a neighborhood news section of the website. So Christina, I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot. I know you were looking into that. I don't know if you have an update on it.
So what my plan is to work with the general contractor as we have that new weekly information going out about scheduled work coming up and access plans and put a little bit more just kind of regular updates on the website for what's going to be happening in and around the site. And then I think what Mike and Lil and I had discussed was keeping that neighborhood news section of the website more informative for the abutters as to what's going on next door. Not necessarily an issues page, just how you'll be impacted directly kind of area. But the question was, how do we get information out to them if something has to happen quick and we just want to let people know? And so that's why I'm trying to look into a mass notification system. We would normally give out contact information for concerns and emergencies for our on-site staff. So that will be circulating to abutters, direct contact information if, say, there's something that's actually happening immediately, they need to talk to somebody on the site and they can make a phone call. But that's not like the general communication piece. The general communication piece is going to be handled in a separate way. So we're kind of planning for both of those right now. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think when that's up and running, that could just be another resource we would point people to. on social media, or if it comes up by people who actually participate in social media. It's not me.
And if I could just mention too, while we're at it, the site photos that Lil posts, we actually get our on-site reps take a lot of site photos every day. It's part of their regular reporting. And so we're essentially whittling them down to like a broad overview of like, here's the basics of what's happening. If people wanted to see like all the site photos that were taken every day, and some of them are pretty detailed, and you probably don't want to wade through like just like tens of possibly even hundreds of photos of like dirt, you know, for a variety of reasons. We'd be happy to share those with you somewhere, but we're really just kind of giving the public like the broad overview of what's happening every week. But beyond the 4 to 6 to 8 photos that Will may be posting on social media, which I'm also counter posting on the website, we do have detailed daily photos of what's happening. So it's more than just those kind of broad things that are being captured as far as our oversight and reporting goes.
And then one last thing, John, sorry, I forgot to mention about earlier when Pat asked his question about the email address. There is an auto reply on the email account. Up until this weekend, it said you would get a response in 24 hours, which we were meeting and exceeding. But now that we're starting the construction phase and more detailed questions are coming in that require longer turnaround time to respond, that has since changed to 72 hours. So they still get an auto reply. It says that you'll be responded to in 72 hours. So just so folks are aware of that if they hear that grumbling. So, and I think if that's it.
All right.
John, Christina has her hand up, but she's on mute.
Oh, hi, Christine. Yep.
I just wanted to address the questions about the cost too, that again, we're still kind of in that process with the MSBA of getting the formal PFA amendment and getting those kind of rejiggered costs to you guys to get that clear picture of what the total project cost looks like. Once that is presented to you guys, we can create like a whole separate page on the website that's like, here's the finances for the project. So you have a real understanding of what the numbers look like. Because by that time, it will have been a formal presentation to the full school building committee with the detailed PFA amendment. So I hope that we can help support, you know, your outreach to the community and their questions about the cost and what the bid means and what the bid savings mean as we roll out all of those details and get the detailed SUVs and get the PFA bid amendment too.
Sounds good. All right, thank you. Still a lot of work, I see, for the communication group. Item 10, the next meeting. We had that up on the schedule. It's March 8th, 6:30.
That's correct. John, we'll try to get you that updated document within the next couple of days. That way you can distribute it appropriately.
Sounds good.
John, can I just ask a question for clarification? This is Mark.
Sure.
The gentleman that left the call, is it Mr. Marks?
Richard Marks, yep.
Yeah, he said something about meeting the first week of the month, and we agreed last month as a committee to do the second.
No, the second is much better. Richard, you know, he typically will get a schedule, a pencil rec the last week of the month, and he typically likes to see the requisition get approved the first week of the month. That way the contractor is getting his money within the first couple of weeks of the month. But Agostini's good about, you know, they pay within 15 days of receipt of their requisition. So, you know, typically and I go the second week because if you run into a situation where you don't get the pencil rec identified and rectified, the first week of the month, and it needs some changes, or subcontractors are a little late putting in their numbers, it just gives them time to really solidify it. And, if you pay them within the month they're in, 99% of the time they're fine. So the second, we're meeting the second Monday because the way if we meet the first Monday, we're not gonna hit that milestone. And to
Yeah.
Richard's point, it would, he's my boss, but he's not always right, so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because we went last month in detail over that, and we needed the first week of the month for that financial subcommittee to look at anything, so it just made sense.
That's what happens when you fill in. I'm sorry.
Okay, just making sure.
He didn't get the memo,
Okay, okay.
but that was a good question, Mark. Because I heard that too, and I wasn't gonna jump on it.
And one other thing on the previous one, I am the moderator for 02324. So if you need anything clarified or corrected, I will only put up stuff on that's official Bridgewater School project info. Like I shared the meeting for tonight that was posted on the page. And if somebody needs to do something, if I see anything up on there, I have to approve it. I'll check with Lil or Mike first. I won't let it go up there. The other one is much more unregulated, and there's all sorts of stuff on it.
Okay. Okay, next item is 11, public comment. I don't know if we have anybody from the public.
Wait a minute.
Well, you said you knew how to do it.
But it's open really for anybody.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So this is Rob and Beth Basler. We're kind of abutters. The new building's going to be kind of right directly behind our backyard. And we just have some questions. We emailed in. We just want to make sure we understand the procedure of how we can find some things out. We just have some concerns regarding things like the lighting and the border and all else. And we were looking to see, is there a contact that we can discuss that with? We emailed in and was told that the project manager will get back to us, but we're not sure if that's even where we're supposed to just be just communicating. And I just wanted to see if you had some insight on that.
Stockade fence versus chain link.
Things like the fencing and the air conditioning sound and things like that.
Sure. So I guess where your question gets directed might be specific as to whether you're asking about construction activities or, the final design of the building and the way it'll operate.
More in the final end of it. So like with the last school, the school that was just taken down, after it was put up, we just had some issues with the lighting and all. And we knew that probably this should have been addressed before it was completed. And so like the lights were shining right into our house. They're coming out of the building and at us. So this is just something to just be able to discuss that with how it's going up, if there's can be any, changes or anything else that's needed on that, just to make sure that, the lighting is as good as it can be for the abutters, not, as little intrusive as possible. And then also, so for example, they got everything started today. They've taken down, a lot of the trees around. We just have, questions about the fencing and the trees that are going up. And again, I don't want to take up your whole committee with it, but we're just trying to see where we can have a conversation with somebody about that.
Specifically, it looks like paralleling South Street is going to be a black chain link fence, and we were wondering if that could be changed to a privacy stockade, like is going to be over by the Moritz's on the corner. if that could be extended.
So things like that.
You know, just so it's, you know, and that would help with the lighting maybe too. We're not sure. A lot of vegetation was taken down, more than we anticipated. You know, lots of large trees, and we're, you know, it's like a parking lot now that we're looking at. And so we're a little nervous. And then the air conditioners, the last time the school, the air conditioners were in the back paralleling Bedford Street. And we're not sure where they're going to be now. If they're in the front, if they're on the South Street side, then there's a pretty good chance that they're going to be making a lot of noise. So those are really our main concerns.
So, hi, this is Mike Dolan.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
I had, I'm the guy who responded to your emails.
Oh, good.
So the OPM will reach out to you specifically with those details. I just want to make sure to point you to the website, because the website has all of the public presentations we did and carried out up until this point. So feel free to check those out. But either you'll hear from Mike McNulty or Joe Sullivan from OPM in the next, I'd say, day or two. They were waiting for some information. You had asked some pretty detailed questions.
Cool.
And,
good.
We wanted to make sure before we responded that we had the answers to all your questions as detailed as we could get them. So
yeah, I've been
sort of
to other meetings and in the beginning, and was assured that, you know, you guys would work with the neighbors, and, you know, so we're hopeful.
Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe Sullivan. It's a pleasure to meet you. We have a on-site representation as well on site. So we can look at each of those items. The designer does and will do a fantastic job to making sure the downlighting only lights the parking lot areas and for life safety moving forward. And we can go over the locations of those light poles and where they'll be. As far as final vegetation, I can probably, you know, and that's what Mike was looking to get from the architect, just to give you a little more detailed formal drawing so that we can actually show you what's being presented, what's being planted for plantings, whether it's grass and shrubs or even trees here and there. So once we have that information, we'll be getting a hold of you. We'll either hand deliver it over to you, and we could probably have some discussions, obviously using our social distancing so you can actually see what's going on. And we can
a little discussion, that'd be important. Thank you very much.
And then what we'll end up doing as far as the mechanical systems, I'll be able to show you on the building where those are projected to be located. And we work with butters. I've over the last 30 years, I've done a lot of schools, and I know how sensitive it can be and how, to work with neighbors when we go through this. And if there are any changes proposed, if there's something that you're requesting, we'll bring it to the committee for discussion, and we'll iron out any of those concerns as we move forward. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Rob and Beth, if I could add, anything related to the final construction is less time sensitive. We want to get the information together, and as Joe described, get it to you and discuss it with you. If it is construction related, that's obviously more urgent. So that's why I was suggesting, you differentiate maybe when you make requests, because there's temporary fencing and then there's permanent fencing as an example.
Yeah.
So we can, respond to whatever's the most time sensitive in the period that we should be.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you. Is there anybody else? Anything additional from anybody for public comment? Because otherwise we would entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, I don't see anybody, so I'm going to say thank you to everybody. And
this is Mike, motion to adjourn.
Mark, second.
All right, let's take the roll.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Harsh,
Yes.
Joe, Pat,
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting is adjourned.
Good night, folks.
Good night. Thank you, John.
Thanks, everybody.